S&J Properties blamed Gambia's government for what it described as illegal demolition of its properties at Olyundum. The Ugandan government says it cannot intervene to mitigate soaring cooking gas prices in the country. And in Zimbabwe, authorities are working to mitigate the growing food insecurity. Well, these and more coming ahead on The World Today. Hello, this is Eyeafrica TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin coming to you live from our studios in Banjul. Many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in detail. Now, a demolition exercise that was conducted by the Department of Physical Planning in New Yundum has been severely criticized by S&J Properties, claiming that the exercise has led to the demolition of its estate in New Yundum and it acquired through legal process. Operation manager of S&J Properties, Yahya Jammeh, blamed the Gambia government for the demolition, stressing that the demolition will not have been possible without the backing of the central government. Mafuji Sise has more details of that in this report.
S&J Properties are claiming to have in possession of all their legal documents, including a layout plan from the physical planning. The estate agency also claimed that they acquired the said property 4 years ago, and since then they never received information that it belongs to the state or a notice banning them from erecting structures. He said until the demolition, they have not received any notice. However, more than 300 compounds have been demolished to the ground. The S&J officials promised to fight to the last level to get back their land. My name is Yahya Jammeh. We got the news at 10 p.m. and in the morning we made some contact with the relevant people, but we could not get any clear information that can give us what the inside story. I also mobilized people, including Ali, my deputy, to the site and insisted that the demolition exercise will not be held as resolved. Many of the protesters were arrested and whisked away. We confirmed from the physical planning, but they told us they are not aware of the demolition. One guy called Ali Baji from the physical planning headquarters is one took boys from Brikama, but no one comes from Sheriff Division. We bought this estate from the Manjankunda family. It seems the demolition took the S&J by a surprise. Mam Jara Juve is a staff of the agency. She narrates that the owners of the said properties have sacrificed everything just to get a plot of land, coping with skyrocketing prices of the building materials. She said some of the victims are their family members who they have convinced to buy plots with the agency.
It's really a sad day. Could you imagine we are in the office and then we are about to have lunch and then we just received the information that they bring down all the houses without no notification, no nothing. It's just a sad day and we are really surprised, you know. Really not a good thing. At least if you're about to take a step, talk to the people, warn them. I think that's the best. In my own opinion, it comes from the maybe at the I don't know. But it's really sad. I know for them also when they don't have they won't do it. If they don't send them to come to this house, they won't do it.
Alaji Mendy is a victim. He said before erecting his he acquired all his documents. He said he invested all his savings and had no choice from zero. According to him, his house to have complete it after the rainy season would walk up to the disaster. The land belongs to the government. Why would they allow people to have documents and start erecting for over a year? I'm a Gambian living in Germany, but it's not fair to be treated as a country. They are saying who the said lands belongs, but I am a Gambian living in the diaspora. What am I to do now? Spending all my savings. Mendy is 11. One of acquisition and compensation act that where any land has been acquired under the act, compensation shall be payable in addition to any construction on the land. The committee led by the local development committee recently on the community reserve lands on the coastal road opposite the estate. Some parts of been allocated to parliamentarians and civil servants last year. For African News, I am Sise.
And from the report there by Mafuji Sise, moving on, the increase in price of cooking gas in Uganda is forcing citizens, including women food vendors, to turn to charcoal and firewood as cheaper alternatives. Now, local gas dealers are also feeling the pinch, blaming the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict for the soaring gas prices, saying if the trend continues, their business may crumble. However, economic analysts have advised businesses to adopt other means, as authorities of this African nation are not prepared to intervene. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Susan Nalgo says it's becoming costly.
I have a budget for gas and for other need in the house. So if it keeps shooting up, that means that I'll not be able to afford, and I'll search to other cheaper means.
Nalgo says the rising prices for cooking gas is taking a toll on her finances. 4 months ago, Nalgo could refill this 13-kilogram cylinder for about $30 but now it's at $36 a price way above her budget for cooking gas. She now plans to switch to a cheaper source of cooking energy, charcoal. Some households have turned to wood fuel, which scientists say expose people to toxic fumes. Local gas dealers blame the current price hike on the geopolitical tensions in Europe.
We import that gas from there. We import fuel from there. First of all, transport costs may bring into the increment. Then also the gas prices, the supply, because that's what they tell us. The supply is a bit low. And when we get impacted negatively, we also impact on the final consumer.
The local gas suppliers are worried that if the situation does not change for the better, their businesses could collapse.
We are a company, Gas Pro Uganda Limited. We have directors, we have to share dividends and all that. So the time reaches and you don't share because you have to make the business survive. So we are working on survival. There is no sharing anything. We're just working because the sales are down.
The government in Uganda insists they will not intervene and control the market prices. They argue the current situation is caused by external factors which are out of their control. Economic experts advise retail businesses and the locals to embrace other clean energy options.
There are some solar boilers, there are some solar stoves, some people can also rely on briquettes. So the number of, you can try to complement, because you cannot rely on LPG 100%. So in our context, what you can try to look at alternative clean sources.
But even the alternatives come at a cost. And for now, consumers like Nalgo will have to part with a few more cents to prepare their favorite dishes with liquefied petroleum gas.
Now, elsewhere in the continent, Ethiopia and Sudan have been locked in a standoff over Al-Fazaga, and there is a Swati of fertile borderland from which Khartoum evicted thousands of Ethiopian farmers in December 2020. Now, leaders of the two countries recently had a fruitful dialogue at the sidelines of the 34th IGAD summit in Nairobi as part of efforts to de-escalate tension. Now, Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta renewed call for the maintenance of peace in the IGAD region, saying they would not relent in their quest to promote stability. Here's more details of that in this report.
Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed met Sudan's military leader, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. The two leaders met on the sidelines of the 39th Extraordinary Summit of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development. According to UN envoy Anna Sawatete, Prime Minister Abe and General Burhan held fruitful discussions over the border row.
I think that having this meeting and the fact that this meeting took place in and of itself is an encouraging sign. And the fact that these leaders came together to be able to have these discussions in what clearly is an off-the-camera, off-the-record, but very bilateral engaged discussion in an effort to find mutual solutions on the way forward.
Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta reiterated calls for a stable IGAD region that funds the Horn of Africa.
Our political and economic stability is dependent on the stability of the IGAD region. And that is why we will continue to invest heavily in regional efforts to secure peace and stability.
The two countries have long-standing competing claims over the Alpha Shaka border region, an area of fertile land settled by Ethiopian farmers that Sudan claims is within its boundary. The Nairobi meeting is expected to diffuse tensions and peacefully resolve the border dispute between the two countries.
You are watching the World Today News Bulletin on Eyeafrica TV, coming to you live from our studios in Banjul. And from the reporter in Nairobi, Kenya, we now take a break and come back shortly. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Once again, you are watching the World Today News Bulletin, coming to you live from our studios in Banjul, and many thanks for joining us. Now, the World Bank on Tuesday approved $68 million in financial support for the Tourism Development and Resilience Project in the Gambia. The financial support was born out of a strong partnership and collaboration between the government of the Gambia and the World Bank Group. The signing ceremony was held at the State House in Banjul. Moses Emendi has more details of that in this report.
Shortly after an meeting with the President of the Gambia, Mr. Adama Barrow, to review the country program and partnership, Mr. Axel van Trostenberg approved a financial volume of $68 million to support the Gambia's tourism development and resilience project. The financial support is to speed up the sector's phase back in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as to advance the development aspirations of the country. Axel van Trotsenberg said the support is to build resilience of the tourism sector amid crisis of the Ukraine war and its impact, such as food insecurity and price hikes translating to inflation. The support is to also preserve the long-term agenda, he added.
Secondly, is also to keep the longer-term agenda. And I think that is how one actually, again, create jobs and stimulate economic and particularly inclusive growth, and creates also the human capital investments are necessary, be it in the health sector, be it also education sector. This is important. And I think this project, for example, is trying to see how can we are looking, apart from that, what one needed to deal with the crisis, the longer term. Tourism creates enormous job opportunity, very important in terms of weight in the GDP. And in that sense, could be a very dynamic growth sector. And therefore, investments are needed. but it also needs to be resilient. It needs also to require training of people. You need to have a whole ecosystem.
He said the Bank has committed over $200 million for program development in the Gambia over the last 2 years and credits such investment to excellent cooperation between the country and his organization. The investment financing has an implementation of a 5-year period. CDM Keita, Finance Minister, said the project is to diversify and support climate resilience of the tourism sector, and elaborated more on the objectives of the Tourism Development and Resilience Project.
The project will cover improvements on compliance standards and also use data to ensure evidence-based strategic planning, marketing, and branding of tourism for Gambia. Additionally, infrastructure support diversification by protecting and rehabilitating and management of coastal areas are another key segment of the project. The small and medium-sized sector will not be left out, and support will be extended to this area, as well as the investment in technology for the sector.
The World Bank remains a strong partner and collaborator of the Gambia government. The Tourism Development and Resilience Project is one of many other projects that the World Bank Group is funding. This is a continuation of its support for the government's vision for sustainable resilience and inclusive growth for the country. Moses Mendy, Eyeafrica News.
On to our final story now, because part of efforts to mitigate growing food insecurity in the southern African country, Zimbabwean authorities are planning to import more maize to prevent supply crisis, as the government intends to partner with the private sector for maize importation. Last year's shortfalls during the rainy season within the region triggered the high increase in price, of course, in grain prices. While authorities initiate measures to remedy the situation, prices of maize are also on the rise, leaving them with a big ambition to boost agricultural production in the country. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Zimbabwe's 2021-22 maize harvest was 1.8 million tons, 400,000 tons short of its annual requirement. Government plans to release 59,000 tons from the strategic reserves and is allowing private players to import grain from neighboring countries. However, the poor rainfall that subdued harvests here also affected traditional source markets including Zambia and Malawi, which means grain supplies are costlier.
So it means even for our imports, we would need to fork out more. Grain prices have gone up, which means our foreign currency requirement for grain will also go up. And we have already a situation where we have not enough of our reserves. So it means that the quantities that we are going to import are going to be affected by the capacity to import.
The price of maize meal is expected to go up at a time the government is trying to contain skyrocketing prices. Measures introduced to try to slow down depreciation of the local currency and galloping inflation, such as raising bank lending rates, could exert more pressure on prices of basic commodities.
As milling industry, we are now engaging the Reserve Bank to say, yes, we agree with what you're trying to do, but when it comes to food inflation, this is the impact. It will cause us to increase price purely on account of interest rates rising.
While imports will avert food shortages in the short term, government plans to intensify production in the long term. Zimbabwe is aiming to bounce back from the current shortfall and to restore food self-sufficiency. Government has set itself an ambitious target to produce 3 million tons of grain in the upcoming 2022-2023 agricultural season. To achieve it, early preparations are key.
We just pray that we have a good season, and also that there should be deliberate effort, action to finance agriculture, to support agriculture, to already start now to import fertilizer even at the prices that we are talking about, because we are talking about food here. So I think it is about preparedness and also allocation of resources to agriculture.
Farmers are exempt from the new bank lending rates and will be able to access concessionary funding in order to improve production.
That agriculture report from Harare, Zimbabwe brings us to the end of this news edition. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, as ever, you can visit on our website on Eyeafrica.tv. But for now, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching and do have a pleasant evening. Bye for now.